to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
We are back, the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
We're not just
Something is a little different around here. Andy, Jason, and Mike back with you Tuesday, March 8th, and we have some new digs.
We've never looked better. Yeah.
It's not too bad. It's a little probably too HD for most of the people out there.
Yeah, and if you're not watching this, what's wrong with you? Go to YouTube and subscribe, but you don't know what we're talking about. It just sounds the same as always.
The set got some upgrades, and so we have a new set here. We've got some different technology in place, and now we just, you got to upgrade what you're doing from year to year.
I've learned one thing from Beyonce. It's occasionally you need to upgrade.
Yes, that is true, and we have upgraded. We've got I need to draw your attention to
the star of the show.
The star of the show.
Get out of the way, Mike. This is David Johnson.
There it is. David Johnson autographed jersey here on the studio wall.
Looking fine.
Got our Foot Clan sign right up next to it. And so Mike actually acquired this jersey.
You're darn right I did.
And he acquired it from some friends of ours.
Yeah. They are now good friends of ours at pristineauction.com. And I was actually pointing there a fan. I don't remember your name. I would give you credit. There was a fan on Twitter who pointed us in their direction and said, you guys might be interested in this. And I said, heck yes.
So we'll get a little more into Mike's addiction now to buying sports memorabilia a little while later. But today's show is going to be great. This is the free agent preview show, so to speak. The big free agent signings are coming soon. And so we wanted to just make sure we get out there and we give you every name, everything you need to know about, and then speculate a little bit about where these guys are going, where we think they'll go. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing on the show today.
Yeah, we're going to find out this week where a lot of these guys are going to go. The tampering period is open, so people can start talking to teams right now legally, but they won't be able to sign until Wednesday.
That's right.
Wednesday midday, we'll have real signings. And can I just say this? Football's back. The NFL is back.
Did it ever go away?
2016 is here.
All right, so before I have a quick question for you. Before I do, I want to let everybody know they can find us on Twitter at the FFBallers. You can find us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com, of course, and we are on the Fantasy Sports Network. Jason talked about it. We're on YouTube. You can subscribe there. Check out the show after the show on YouTube. And you can visit our fantasy football community at jointhefoot.com. So quick question for the day. It is tied into the free agent period, but who is the one free agent that you are the most excited for? Here's the caveat. From a fantasy perspective. Who are you most excited for from a fantasy perspective?
Ooh, that is a tremendous question. And let's see. I'm looking through the list of names. The guy I would be most excited for. You gotta go Lamar Miller. You gotta go. You can jump on this with me, Jason. I know that he is your guy. It's Lamar Miller, simply because he has publicly stated he wants touches. He wants 20 touches. He's not one of these guys. He's no Mario Williams who has just said, "You give me $10 million a year, guess what? I'm on your team."
I got an immediate signing. That's all I want.
And Lamar Miller has said, "No, I want to play the game of football, and I want to be a high contributor to the offense." So you got to go Lamar Miller.
Lamar Miller is also the guy I'm looking at, and also because it's a little bit of a domino. You've got a few of the larger running back pieces. If he goes back to, obviously there's only a couple teams in the league right now that are really looking for a running back. Lamar Miller has to be the number one guy they would want. Maybe you could argue Doug Martin, but as soon as one of those pieces falls into place, the others, just by being able to look at who needs a running back, you can start putting the pieces into place as soon as either Doug Martin or Lamar Miller hits. Who's yours, Andy?
I will go with Doug Martin, and that is because of the sum of money that he is going to get paid in the free agency period. He just happens to be in this situation coming off an absolutely great year. He pushed for the, rushing leader numbers, and yes, we can have some fantasy question marks about the up and down season that he's had before, but look, Doug Martin's going to get paid, And when you're paid that kind of money and you're 27 years old, you've got the opportunity to walk into a situation where you're going to be the bell cow. You get paid. You're the pinnacle free agent signing of the offseason by some team. That's the press for that team, and he gets to come in and do what he does. And I think he's good. I think he's a good running back. And so I think the opportunity with the money is going to be there.
In the name of chaos, I just want to see Brock Osweiler go somewhere else.
Sure.
It's just witness the panic.
No running backs, offensive line, or quarterback in Denver.
And
you don't need any of those.
You don't need
them.
Defense.
Oh, good point.
You just punt.
All right.
Whenever you get the ball, you punt.
All right, let's move on.
News and notes from around the league.
So Peyton Manning has decided indeed to hang him up.
That is exactly what has finally happened. It should have happened a while. I'm a little sad that it took this long. Not that it's a crazy long amount of time, but it seemed like he was really trying to play again and couldn't get anybody to really say, I want you, Peyton. And so he retired. I'm going to say that's not what happened, though. And I'm just going to say, for the sake of my own mind with the greatness of Peyton Manning, he went out on top.
I choose to just pay attention to the career he had. One of the greatest NFL quarterbacks that's ever played the game. I think people have different standards for greatness, and he certainly was dominant in the regular season, dominant for fantasy. In our league of record, the 2 seasons that I have won the title, I had Peyton Manning the Colts and Peyton Manning the Bronco in both of those seasons, and he just was a force, an absolute force. He was a field general, and he's going to ride off into the sunset after a title, and good for him.
A very tearful goodbye at the press conference. Yeah. Emotional.
Well, it's probably because he ran out of Papa John's pizza. You got to ride off into the sunset into a nice
I think he'll be in a few
cheese.
commercials.
I also think he can order plenty. He's not going to run out of Papa John's. You just call him up.
He's so rich.
Some more.
He's so rich that he subscribes to Papa John pizzas to arrive every day, and if he doesn't want it, he just throws it away.
Does he have?
He just gets it and tosses it in the trash.
Does he have a red phone like the old Batman? Does he have the bat phone?
That's direct to Papa John. In case he wants pizza advice.
There's no number. No number. You just pick it up, and there's only one thing it can do.
Yeah, it just dials Papa. And he hand makes them for Peyton.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Just the Papa. All right. We are keeping some of the free agent discussions and news more in when we individually talk about those players. But some other news, RG3 was cut.
It's official.
So are we going to talk about him at length?
Yeah. I believe we'll get into him in the quarterback section. It's official. He's cut. There's going to be some interest in Mr. Griffin.
Victor Cruz has to take a pay cut or say goodbye, and he should take a pay cut.
Absolutely. He was paid last year to do nothing. And
best opportunity to succeed.
Well, not
in
nothing.
In that offense.
Rehab.
Yeah, I feel like it's a Marcus Lattimore thing where he knew he couldn't play last year, and he just took the money. And not that I'm blaming him. I would have done the same thing.
He got paid 2 years ago, though. Yeah. His contract was 2 years ago.
But he's saying that he just didn't think he actually could come back. He had a setback last year. I mean, he publicly came out. I saw him on late night too, talking about the setback, the disappointment. He's in the best place to succeed in New York if he has a chance to succeed again. Yep. Do we agree with that?
Yes. Stick in the system that you know. Come back with the quarterback that you already know. That's the best way to succeed.
And then Darrius Heyward Bay, superstar, has re-signed with the Steelers.
Oh yeah!
So
hooray!
He did better than I thought he would do this last year, which he didn't do much.
No, he's just the most fantasy irrelevant example that you can get. A guy who will occasionally catch the ball.
I feel like if you put Darrius Heyward Bay on Carolina and you took Ted Ginn Jr. away, it would be identical.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Hey, yeah, that's fair. That's a fair comparison.
So I did promise you that we would talk a little bit more about pristineauction.com. That's where we got this jersey, and that's Mike's newest obsession is pristineauction.com. And they are an amazing website. They're friends of the show. They have daily auctions, and this is not just David Johnson jerseys. This is everything you can want in sports memorabilia, NFL fans. You've got to go on there because they have daily auctions that end every single night, hundreds of different lots. and they're all about the authenticity of the product. That is the most important thing you can get really, really taken advantage of on the internet, and that will not happen at pristineauction.com. They guarantee the authenticity of all their items from only the most trusted sources. And Mike has, I mean, what have you been doing?
All he's been doing is shopping on Pristine
And we
Auction.
were over at Mike's house for the fight. Thank you for buying the fight, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
And your wife was even revealing that she doesn't know how things keep showing up on your wall.
Yeah, she's like, I saw something new on your wall.
So, I mean, I got a David Johnson jersey for the show, and I thought, yeah, I probably need one for my own house.
Yes.
And they get you with the dailies, man. Like, such great stuff is popping
It's
up
fun,
all the
man.
time. I got a Patrick Peterson jersey. I got some other stuff, and they don't have just sports. I mean, they have you a comic book nerd? Do you want a Stan Lee autographed, like, a Thor helmet?
You can get one.
Get it done.
And look, they're really affordable. I mean, you bought 3 of those, and it didn't cost you an arm and a leg. So it's worth checking out. pristineauction.com. They also accept consignments if any listeners out there have things that they want to sell. And so you can check that out. PRISTINE auction.com. Good friends of the show. You can put your own David Johnson
Yeah,
jersey on the
seriously,
wall.
go check them out. It's a lot of fun right
Very
now.
cool. All right, you guys ready?
Yep.
Scrooge McDuck.
That is the sound.
Doug Martin.
That's Doug Martin's new ringtone.
Oh, yes.
All of his texts are just going to...
That's what he has set up for his agent. When the agent calls through, he just hears that. So let's start with the running backs. And I think the best way to go about this is we're going to give you the names of the guys that are out there. So you can have some, this is the fun part of the year. It's fun to see guys.
Very speculative.
Every fan loves the new free agent to arrive on their team. They love the visits. I mean, I remember when Peyton was a free agent before he went to Denver, he visited Arizona, and Mike and I remember we were just freaking out. We were all, maybe.
I remember when Joe Montana was visiting.
That's a long time ago. And there's a rumor that the Cardinals had accidentally locked the front gate, and it took like 20-something minutes to open it up for him to get in.
Really?
So, yeah, no,
Wait,
it's a
Peyton?
real story.
That was
No,
the
Joe
old
Montana.
Cardinals.
Oh.
Back before the Cardinals had any money or
Yeah.
a reputable franchise. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to go through some of these names, but I want us to talk about really, Jason, the teams that need running backs. I mean, that's who.
Yeah, that's where we need to start,
where are these
right?
fits going to happen?
So the teams that need a running back, you've got Washington. They very well might need a running back. I assume Alfred Morris is going to be out. Tennessee Titans could very well use one. So far, everyone they've drafted has done nothing. Dallas is the most sexy team, right? Everybody wants to go behind that offensive line. Nobody believes Darren McFadden can get it done. The Houston Texans losing Arian Foster have another.
They didn't really lose him.
Well, that's true.
They booted him.
They quit him. They cut him out of town.
Oh, I thought you said they quit him.
yeah, they
They
did.
finally quit him.
Carolina is someone in the draft that's been said to be looking at a running back despite Jonathan Stewart
I could
there.
see that.
He's usually been in a tandem. New England definitely needs an upgrade at running back because Deion Lewis is not really their running back. He's just lines up in that position and catches passes.
Their weapon back.
And then, of course, your Super Bowl champion, Denver Broncos, because they don't have any do they have a running back even under contract?
Juwan Thompson.
Yeah. Ronnie Hillman, C.J. Anderson, both are able. Ronnie Hillman's an unrestricted free agent.
Correct.
I believe he's just gone. C.J. Anderson, he did get a tender, but he was undrafted. So
very surprising. An
anyone
original
that gives-
round tender.
anyone that gives him some money, Broncos are not going to be able to match that or not choose to.
And they get nothing. You
Right.
get nothing
It's true.
if somebody signs Anderson
And Ronnie
away.
Hillman has still petitioned for Brock Osweiler to join the team. So I think Hillman could stay around because I don't know if anybody's going to pay him. But we'll talk about that. Let's start at the top. Doug Martin and Lamar Miller are the guys that we see headlining this class. There's debate of whether we kind of believe Lamar Miller might actually be the best free agent running back, especially because you're going to probably pay less for him than Doug Martin, and he's 24.
The age, I was surprised to see that Doug Martin is 27 years old. I still view him like the exact same age as Lamar Miller. I would think both of those guys are 25, but it surprises. You've got 3 years of more prime running back years for Lamar Miller than you do Doug Martin. But Doug Martin has certainly had a better career, better numbers on the
proven.
ground.
better proven workload.
He will get the bigger payday between the two.
Because Lamar Miller, we complain. What do we complain about last year?
That he doesn't get the touches.
Well, and if you haven't gotten the touches before, how do you know if you hold up? You
Right.
don't know if Lamar Miller can take 270, 300 touches.
Oh, I know. And I know he can.
You know in your heart.
If I'm a GM, I'm going out and getting
I know
asked-
like you love Latavius Murray.
Oh.
Lamar Miller told me personally that he can do it.
Yeah.
He can handle the load.
So rumors say that 6+ teams are interested in Doug Martin, and why not? I mean, if you need to make a splash and a guy he's still young, 27 years old, has shown he can hold the workload, not going to probably go back to Tampa Bay at this point. They couldn't come to an agreement. Now you're in open negotiation period.
So the Raiders are a team that has two things in common. One, they are saying they want to get another running back. Now, I believe that was under the premise of they want to get a backup running back for Latavius Murray to kind of spell him more. Right? But
That's Jason's opinion.
That's my opinion. But here's the other position they're in. A ton of cap room. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Oakland Raiders have all the money they want to spend. I don't know that they want to spend it, at least in Jacksonville's case. But they could go out and land any of the top, I would say, 3 running backs, Forte being the third in that mix. And I would not like that from a fantasy perspective with
well, that is
Latavius
the
Murray.
problem. With certain signings, you water guys down. It's not just these guys and where they go. It's which guys in the location that they sign are going to get nerfed. There are certain people that could step up right now and we go, boy, Charles Sims, like right today, right? Charles Sims could be really good until they sign Alfred Morris next week.
Right.
Or whatever, whatever thing that
It's
happens.
the worst.
Yeah,
The water
Langford.
down.
I mean, if the
Yeah,
Chicago was to
Chicago.
sign somebody.
Here's a great example of that because Julius Peppers has been recruiting
So the next name that you got here.
Matt Forte
Yeah.
to Green Bay. And
Oh, no.
I know you want to stick it to the team that doesn't want to
No.
re-sign you, and you go in division. You go to Green Bay, but what would that do to Skinny Lacy?
Breaking news.
Well, I was going to say Eddie Lacy doesn't seem to be as fat. That's the breaking news.
Right? Yeah, he's been working out with Tony Horton. He's looking fit. He's in a contract year.
I'm surprised you can get in that good a shape in like 3 weeks since the story broke about Tony Horton.
Yeah.
You know what I need? Now that we got these multi-angles, I've noticed that when we zoom in on myself and Jason, we could use Tony Horton as well.
Yeah.
So if anyone has his number, just shoot it over to me.
That's
on
pro
Twitter.
bono. He does that stuff pro bono.
Yeah.
Well, it would be.
Has
big
someone
news.
hooked up the phone, a P90X phone for Lacy where he picks that up and Horton's on the other end?
Just saying, don't eat it. That's what he just picks it up and it's, don't eat it. Don't eat it, Eddie. Okay.
Wait. It looks really good. It looks.
Don't you pick up the Papa John's phone, Eddie. That'll just go straight to pizza.
Don't mix those phones up or
No.
his career's over.
I'm over at Peyton Manning's house. There's a
Yeah.
phone over here.
All right, so we've talked about Doug Martin, some of the destinations there. We don't see him going to Dallas, do we?
It's possible.
I think when it comes
Free
to
agency period.
Doug Martin is looking for as much money as he can get. He's looking for $8 million or more. They chose not to do that last year with their own leading rusher, so I doubt they're going to bring in Doug Martin. That wouldn't make a lot of sense to me.
All right, so Matt Forte is 30 years old. He seems to be resigned to the reality that he's not a full-time back anymore, which is something that is a breath of fresh air because there are guys that go way past their prime and don't understand that they're not a premium running back anymore, a full-time running back. So Forte is somebody who I think can go someplace and contribute in a good way.
Yeah, I think Forte can be great. I mean, Forte fits the bill for Denver.
But does he suddenly become Gio Bernard or that type of a fantasy player from a draft's perspective?
You put him on Denver. Let's say they lose Anderson or Hillman or both. If he replaces one of those guys, I love Forte. He won't be a running back 1, but I think he'll still be
he would.
Very solid running back 2. A running back on a team with that monstrous of a defense, that's a situation that you want a piece of. And Matt Forte,
well, you know
can
how
still,
Kubiak wants to run the
Kubiak,
offense.
Kubes with a running back.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great.
I think if Matt Forte were to go to Denver, he would be an RB1 because they would probably
it's
use
possible.
him for both guys. Great running system. He showed last year, even though he's 30, he's still a good running back on the field. You might not have 3 or 4 more years left in him, but this year he would be fine.
Well, I mean, look at D'Angelo Williams. You give him an opportunity on a good offense and a good team. Nobody's saying, "Oh, you're too old. I'm taking your fantasy points away." They still count. They still count. All right, so Lamar Miller, we're most excited about. He's gonna hit the market most likely. It seems. I mean, he hasn't been re-signed, so
yeah, he's basically.
Where's the best destination for Lamar Miller in reality? Is it someplace?
Of course, it's Dallas, but. If Dallas chooses to go the route, they're not going to pay a running back, which I don't disparage them for that. I think Houston would be a great place for Lamar Miller. Especially with their quarterback situation is shaky. They don't know what they're going to do. It might end up being Hoyer again next year. Maybe the aforementioned Robert Griffin comes down, and you put Griffin and Lamar Miller on the Houston Texans. Which I don't verbatim know the stat, but I believe it was about the last six to 8 weeks or so. Houston was actually the best defense in the NFL. So a similar situation I was just talking about with Denver. You get a monster defense, you get Lamar Miller over there, and they commit to getting him the ball like they did with Arian Foster. When Foster was healthy on the Texans, nobody else mattered.
Well, and you look at the impact that Robert Griffin had on running backs, no matter where he lands.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to just lock him into Houston, but no matter where he lands, he had a huge impact on Alfred Morris. And Lamar Miller's a guy who, look, last year 4.5 a carry, the year before 5.1 a carry. He's done it fairly consistently, 4.6 over his career. He had 8 touchdowns the past 2 years, and that's unlimited work. I don't think any team signing Lamar Miller, I'm going to say this, I don't think that they're going to, whether he says he wants the 20 or not, I don't think you're seeing 300 carries from Lamar Miller. No. I think you're seeing I
don't know if it was
225, 235, 240.
I think the quote was 20 touches, so it doesn't have to be 20 carries a game. Give him 5 catches a game.
You want those touches. A great landing spot would be the Indianapolis Colts, because Ahmad Bradshaw was used so well by Andrew Luck when healthy around the goal line and in the passing game. If you had that all-purpose back who could really be a workhorse there, spelled by Frank Gore, I think that would be a very good landing spot.
And a team we didn't mention in this list of RB needy, the New York Jets. They don't have anybody either. I believe all 3 of their running backs, Ridley, Bilal Powell, and Chris Ivory, are they're not under contract this year. So they're really going to need some help. So that's a prime destination for a guy. You got Chan Gailey's system. You need a guy who's multidimensional, a guy like Lamar Miller. That could be a great fit as well.
All right, so let's talk about some of the next tier of running back options. You got Chris Ivory. You got Alfred Morris. You've got the Denver running back buddies,
duo.
The Denver duo of C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman. And you also have Arian Foster, who has been released or has been told he'll be released. So that should have probably been in the news. But Arian Foster's 29 years old, coming off the Achilles injury. But every time he's played, we haven't seen him hit a wall physically other than the injuries, right? We haven't seen him – I guess not physically. I'm sorry, hit a wall statistically.
Right.
We've definitely seen him hit a wall physically.
That's a pretty big wall.
Yes, he's hit every physical wall he can. But statistically, when he's on the field, he's productive. He's a workhorse. You can pass him the ball. He can, catch underneath routes. He can run the wheel. He can one cut and go. And could he be a guy that you bring into Denver and match him up with Kubiak again?
I love the idea of bringing him into Denver, into the system he knows and thrives in. My issue with Arian Foster is that this is not the same as all. He's been injured so many times and come back from injury. We feel like we know what we get. We get a guy who can recover from it well and come back in game 1. He's fine until the next injury, of course. But this is different because it's an Achilles injury.
But Jason, he's only missed 48% of the games he's been eligible to play in the last 3 years.
Right. Yes.
That's under 50%.
Well, that's good.
Compare that to Zach Miller, the tight end.
Oh, well, yeah. He hasn't played
4
much
in 5 years.
I just think it's going to be hard to come back from that injury at that age and be what you hope you have in a big-name Arian Foster. I don't expect it to happen for any team. I think he's going to go and sign to be a backup and prove himself somewhere.
That's pretty much my question. I was going to ask you what percentage chance that he has any big role on a team next year.
I think it's all about that injury coming back from it, and it's really, really tough. If anyone can come back, you got to think maybe Foster can do it just because of how many injuries he's
definitely
had
got
to
the
come
work
back
ethic,
from. Right. So, but it's, I don't know. I don't think so. When I really start thinking about it, it's going to be really tough for him to be a starting running back.
All right, Chris Ivory and Alfred Morris are both early down bruisers. Okay, you saw some success with even an older Chris Johnson come into the right offense last year and get yardage, especially on first and second down. That's where I see these guys. I don't see somebody signing Ivory and giving him every touch. But could he go someplace, even like Jacksonville, and share with T.J. Yeldon?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that seems like a possibility to me.
Yeah, in Yeldon,
Or even to Washington.
A great place for me, thinking about it, could be Detroit. We know that Joique Bell,
sure,
and Andy's favorite running back of the modern era, Joique Bell,
yes, the greatest that ever lived,
he got cut. So they're in need.
Didn't he retire early, just like Barry Sanders? Isn't that what happened?
Joique Bell?
Yeah.
Sure.
He might
Didn't
be
he go out
forced
on,
into that. We'll find out.
He didn't go out on top?
The next couple months.
So Detroit's looking for that role. Abdullah, that's not his role. Theo Riddick, that's not his role. Maybe Zach Zenner was an undrafted free agent, could fill that role. But to me, Detroit's going to be looking for somebody
like
who
Morris,
could be a power
like
back.
Ivory.
Exactly.
I feel like these
Grind
guys are
it
just
out.
what happens when you're an older, or at least older in usage running back that doesn't catch the ball much, and you're not being re-signed. It's basically a money move. I wanted to see these two guys basically just switch teams and take pay cuts because their own team won't pay them. So it's like they're each going to take less money to go play the same role for another team. I'm not too excited for either of these guys. Unless Chris Ivory's back for the Jets, where we've seen he can be successful, I think if these guys switch teams, it's going to take a lot from a fantasy perspective, for me to believe that they're going to go to another role on a new team, probably not for big money. They're not going to be catching the ball, and they're going to be huge fantasy options. I'm not excited.
Huge.
It's going to be huge.
All right, so before we move on to wide receivers, I do want you to give a final warning to fantasy football owners about getting too excited for free agent signings at the running back position. What is the warning there? Because
the warning is that it is very rare for any. I mean, if you look every year, there are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 running backs who are signed in free agency that go to another team. And it is over the last 10 years, you can count on one hand the amount of times where somebody has done all right. Now, last year, LaShawn McCoy was traded, went to a new team. He did all right, but he did
pretty good.
Yeah.
So when you say
though.
them, yeah, they're not going to. Michael Turner's the one that comes to mind.
Right.
Michael Turner got signed. He exploded on another team, but even he wasn't a high-profile type of situation in the sense that he was great on one team and then he went to another team and was great again.
Yeah, people that were great on one team and switched to another team and were great. What? I mean, how many examples do we have? I can't even.
I don't have the
think of
research
one.
in front of me, but it happens. But it's not as easy as like basketball and baseball. This isn't just you go to a new team, you plug and you play, especially baseball, because you got the more of the one-on-one thing. So for you have to fit into the team, you have to fit into the scheme, you have to know what you're doing, and football is so heavily dependent on how you match up in a unit and not just as an individual.
All right, wide receivers, let's talk about them. They can make an impact.
It's not very sexy, though.
But they can get paid, too, even if they are guys that maybe aren't, you see this every year. James Jones, right, was a free agent, and he just cashed in. There are a lot of guys, when you need somebody at that position, if you're not drafting, look, you got a few names that are going to get paid. Marvin Jones, Travis Benjamin, Ruben Randall. Those are the big names.
I heard the tears and the choke.
Yeah, it was hard for me to say it.
Choking it back when you had to throw out Ruben Randall.
Look, he's 24, so I'll give you that. Ruben Randall's 24 years old.
That's always my defense of
That's
Ruben
all
Randall.
you get.
Is he's so young. Oh, Ruben Randall.
So teams in need of wide receivers. Mike, who are some teams that you think are going to be in the market for the free agent wide receiver class?
Well, of course, Cleveland, if they lose Benjamin, which all the rumors were looking great for them to re-sign Travis Benjamin, and I think it's very silly of them to not re-sign Travis Benjamin after he really showed what he could do. That offense, you get Flash Gordon back this year. Things could really be looking up for that offense, but it seems like they're going to screw it up. Baltimore, you have the situation where Kamar Aiken had to be the whole team. Steve Smith coming off an Achilles, similar to Arian
Rashad
Foster.
Perriman may or may not play ever.
May or may not be the age that he states on his driver's license.
Right.
In San Diego, could really use some help opposite of Keenan Allen there for the Chargers.
Oh, yeah, if Keenan goes down, you can see.
We saw the team just completely fall apart. I do like Stevie Johnson, but it just didn't seem to completely work out.
Let me ask you this real quick on San Diego. If they don't bring in somebody else, does that take away your sleeper confidence in Phillip Rivers? Because one injury to Keenan Allen would maybe take his value away?
It doesn't lower it at all. I'm not going to count on another severed kidney from Keenan Allen. And
severed. I don't know if it was severed.
What was it?
Dropped off.
I think it was lacerated.
What's on the field? What is Keenan? Is that your kidney?
I apologize.
I apologize
for that kidney.
Can I get that?
Yeah. So a lacerated kidney. A wide receiver. I'm not going to bank on him getting hurt, I'm perfectly fine still going with Rivers.
One of the studies I plan to do this offseason is I really want to look at the correlation between who finished as a great quarterback and how many relevant fantasy options they had to throw the ball to, because I feel like there was a huge correlation last year between that. So to me, I think that is something. San Diego needs another wide receiver. Stevie Johnson didn't get it done. Even if Keenan Allen is there and healthy all year, I feel like they need another pass-catching option. I'm going to throw out New England as another place. Now that they cut Brandon LaFell, they're in need of...
He cut himself.
Yes, he did. He could not catch the ball. They're in need of a guy who can go downfield and catch the ball. It's like Brady. I don't think Brady's arm fell off. I think he hit Brandon LaFell in the hands.
They've been waiting for Aaron Dobson. They've been waiting for Brandon LaFell. They've been waiting for those guys. So you're right. If they bring somebody in that can be a bit of a burner, I just don't know what they're going to spend. But I think there will be value guys out there. I mean, could a guy like Percy Harvin end up in New England as this jack-of-all-trades weapon? Because that was rumored last year before he signed with Buffalo, was the possibility of him going to New England. I could see that because – his cost is going down.
He will not cost very much. Percy Harvin, with all the rumors of retirement combined with his injury history, that's very interesting to me.
And Buffalo could be another place that picks up another wide receiver. But we'll see. There are going to be those second tier guys. So Marvin Jones, the question I have for you is, let's say he lands in the most perfect scenario you could ever have. And
he's a solid RB2. That's his peak.
He plays running back?
He's a solid running back.
We're falling apart.
A solid wide receiver, too. That's his peak. Like, best case scenario for Marvin Jones.
That's what you think?
I think he's wide receiver 2 is his
Now,
cap.
do you believe that about Golden Tate? Do you believe Golden Tate's a 1?
I believe Golden Tate would be able, like, for instance, if Marvin Jones goes to the Lions, one of the possible destinations, I expect Golden Tate to have a better year and be able to finish more near a wide receiver 1 than I would think for Marvin Jones.
One of the reasons Marvin Jones is going to get paid is because he's shown he can be a red zone monster at times. And so that's the one thing that's interesting about him is I don't remember the exact number, but when he had that 10 touchdowns in that stretch where he had multiple touchdown games.
He had a 4-touchdown game.
Yeah.
That helps.
So but I think he had, a stretch of games there where he just put up Doug Baldwin-esque touchdown numbers. And so that's always a big deal for teams, getting somebody that can make an impact in the red zone.
Well, he's got the size. He's over 6'2". I mean, that's what you want in a wide receiver. Definitely going to get paid.
And so, speaking of the Browns that Mike brought up, Travis Benjamin could slip away from them.
What are they doing, man? He's 26. He's young.
He's made an impact.
And he, at the beginning of the year, when he kind of broke out for fantasy, it seemed very fool's gold, where he was doing it on 3 targets, and then throughout the year, he kind of proved that no, he's not just the deep guy. I mean, he can run pretty solid routes. His slant route is fantastic, and it's bamboozling to me that Cleveland has not locked him up. And I guess maybe we'll see a contract that he actually signs, and you go, oh, I guess that's why they didn't sign him, but. For the Browns to let Benjamin get away, I think is a big mistake.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's confusing to me about the teams who need a wide receiver. they seem to be the teams losing a wide receiver. Like, the Cleveland's going to need a wide receiver because they lose Travis Benjamin, and Cincinnati's going to need a wide receiver because they're not going to sign Marvin Jones or Mohamed Sanu.
I think they'll sign one of them.
And New York's going to need a wide receiver because Ruben Randle leaves.
Right.
Then they're all just going to switch teams again, and I don't know what's going on here, but the reality is it's money. They're going to go get paid. There's not that many big-name wide receivers this year, and there's a lot of teams with wide receiver needs. So they should get money, which means those teams I just mentioned, they're going to need cheap options. They're going to need affordable guys or through the draft. So who from the bottom half of wide receiver free agents could go to those teams, play with an Andy Dalton or an Eli Manning, and find success? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the guys you have to mention is somebody who has perennially surprised me, and that's Rashad Matthews. He's 26 years old, unlikely to re-sign with Miami. He's got a number of significant. He's had a number of significant fantasy impactful games, and he just needs to find the right place where he can be used regularly. Obviously, that's not probably Miami with Devontae Parker, with Jarvis Landry, and we'll see if he moves on. And then there's a number of the older veteran type of guys too. Is there somebody that, is Ruben Randle, we joke about him all the time because Mike's in love with him and I have a very fair and balanced viewpoint on him. But Ruben Randle is 24. And you showed me a stat earlier. He was one of the better catch rate guys.
Better, lower drop rates of the free agents who are available.
And he's big.
Yeah, I always admit that he is a frustrating wide receiver. He seems to disappear. He can't seem to put a full season together. But he's 24, man. You gotta take the shot as long as the contract is not out of control. What are you guys' thoughts on Jermaine Kearse from Seattle? Kind of made some noise this year. I can't imagine that Seattle is going to offer him any kind of substantial contract. And like we've talked about, there's not high-end sexy guys coming into this free agency class. So I think Jermaine Kearse is one of these guys who will probably get overpaid. But do you think that he can come into a team and be a 2 like Detroit? They're very much missing their 2. Could Kearse come in and fill that role?
No.
See, I would say yes, but it depends on the fit because he is not somebody who has otherworldly tools in one area. So I think if you put him on a team with a Breeze, Brady, Rodgers, and that's why your no might be right with Stafford. I'm not sure. It's on the line there, but I think he is a reliable wide receiver. I think he is a guy who can make plays. But you saw, I will not be surprised that Russell Wilson makes another Jermaine Kearse out of somebody.
Exactly. That's and you spoke to what my brain was thinking was the quarterback. He was catching passes from Russell Wilson, who's been playing fantastic, and he's been doing that as the third wide receiving option on that team, meaning he's not facing any kind of good coverage. And on these broken plays where Russell Wilson runs around and he can hit him, if he goes to another situation, I think he could be as good as he was last year.
Yeah, I don't think he takes a big step forward, but I think he's a reliable wide receiver, and I agree with you. I don't think he gets re-signed. So you do have a number. Now, if you remember last offseason, we had a lot of fun because there was always – what do we call that?
Oh, was it the old receiver signing of the week?
There was always some – Greg Jennings got signed.
Middle-level wide receiver.
Andre Johnson got signed. There was always some middle-level wide receiver getting signed. There's a number of free agents now. Andre Johnson's back out there. Anquan Bolden.
Many of the people are those people who were signed last
year.
True.
Marcus Colston. He had a good career in New Orleans.
Leading receiver.
Roddy White, Jericho Cotchery still playing in the NFL. And Nasty Nate, who's kind of reliable. He reminds me a lot of Bolden where he just – wherever he goes, he just kind of catches passes, and he's
give me Bolden, and I'll let the field go.
You would take Bolden over the field?
Yes, because I think Andre Johnson's done.
I think other than Nate Washington, I'm probably
Roddy White's done. Cotchery is not fantasy relevant.
How many of these did you say relevant?
Relevant? I don't think so, but maybe. I am known to.
Roddy White reminded me of irrelevant on the field the last.
He wasn't that fast.
Oh, come on now. Roddy.
We loved Roddy for so long, and then he got really slow. So, sorry, Roddy, if you're listening, we still love you.
Oh, he's not coming on anytime soon.
Not like we'd want him on anymore.
Oh,
The Roddy Hour.
behind the barn with Roddy White.
I love you, Falcons fans.
Oh my
Hey, he's
goodness.
not a Falcon anymore.
No, they.
Which he shouldn't be, right? All right.
Oh my goodness. Roddy White is being savage.
Rashad Berryman feels great right now. All right, quarterback free agents. Some interesting things taking place. Brock Osweiler is going to make money. We know that. I think he's going to get $45 million or more wherever he goes. But what did you hear about Ryan Fitzpatrick this morning?
Apparently, the Jets and Ryan Fitzpatrick are way off on their contract negotiations.
Are they just content to go like Geno plus a draft pick? Spend a high draft pick on a quarterback? I mean,
I guess. I mean, look, Ryan Fitzpatrick is not the answer. But when a guy combined with your team and your defense brings you within an eyelash of making the playoffs, do you want to just say, well, screw it, we're going back to the bottom? I mean, I'm telling you as an Arizona Cardinal fan, you don't want that to happen. It is the absolute worst where you feel like your team is on the rise and you lose your quarterback and everything just goes right in the dumpster for 5 years until you find one.
Isn't the saying not every Kevin Kolb works out? Isn't that the saying?
Yeah. This is important, though, not just from the standpoint of Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Jets, playoff standpoint, but you've got two really important fantasy players in Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. And they will not be what they were this year without Ryan Fitzpatrick there. If Geno Smith comes in, look, Brandon Marshall's going to be okay. He's going to be, the wide receiver 1 on that team, and he'll be, I don't know if he would be a wide receiver 1. He could be on that cusp, but probably a high-end wide receiver 2 if you've got Geno Smith throwing the ball. And Eric Decker's consistency, I don't think, is going to be there anymore. It's going to be up and down, have a good game and a bad game. This is really important. I think that Fitzpatrick re-signs there. I think it's silly that he wouldn't re-sign there and that they wouldn't sign him. So to be determined, but keep in mind, if you hear he goes somewhere else, it affects those two receivers greatly.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, it's a tough situation for him because I feel like he needs to cash in to a degree, right, of having a good season, and you're a quarterback, and they're getting paid right now. But somehow I feel like if he becomes a free agent, the number's not going to be there for him. That's the thing. It's like he hasn't gotten teams over the hump. We saw last offseason Houston give up on him, and it's unfortunate because he just never made the playoffs. He's so hot and cold, but I think the impact on Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker is the biggest part of this whole equation because you had a fantasy utopia in New York at the wide receiver position, and that would all be up in the air. So what I'd like to do is have each of us pay some of his salary. Okay?
I think we're going to need a lot of our listeners to go to jointhefoot.com.
Join the beard.
Join the beard. Yeah, look, Mike.
The Jets could full on just be calling Fitzpatrick bluff. Like you're saying, is there money somewhere else for a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick? When you're Ryan Fitzpatrick, you almost got to the playoffs. You had a great year. You look just across state borders. You see Sam Bradford over there getting a guarantee of astronomical money. And you can't get your contract done. That's got to be extremely frustrating. And you got to, he's holding out for something along that lines. I would want to be paid more than Bradford just got.
Yeah, and he's not going to get it. But this could be a smart move on the Jets' part because look at the teams out there that do need a quarterback, right? One of them, some of them aren't going to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick from a standpoint of system. The 49ers could use a quarterback depending on what happens with Kaepernick. He's not the type of guy that Chip Kelly's looking for. The Texans are one of the teams that need a quarterback the most.
He's back.
Well, they just had him, and they let him go.
It's not going to happen.
They're clearly not in the running. They wouldn't even think about it. So, really, when he
not going to be Denver, not going to be
– I mean, Cleveland maybe.
The Browns already have their
But Cleveland's
veteran.
going to be taking, their quarterback with the number 2 pick.
When they have McCown. You can't have McCown and Fitzpatrick on the same team.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So really, he's
perfect.
going to go out, test the market. There's not going to be a good market, and they'll probably get him back cheaper.
I think he ends up back on New York. I just do. RG3, we talked about him earlier. Let's, where can he go and lead a team?
if he goes to Houston, very similar to what Mike was saying earlier, they've got a great defense. I think he would be able to produce well enough there to be a contending type of team. Now, if they are a contending type of team, he's probably not the highest fantasy producer because what's happening is they're running the ball well, which RG3 helps open up running lanes if he's running the ball, and he's being more of a game manager.
What's the impact on Hopkins?
Hopkins can catch from anyone. I think RG3 is a better quarterback than anybody that's been throwing the ball there. He's better than Brian Hoyer. So I think Hopkins takes a step up this next year if RG3 or any other improvement of quarterback goes there.
Yeah, the Robert Griffin is at least accurate. He is always over 60%. He's 64% for his career. It at least appears as of now that he's lost the weapon that he was gifted and brought into the NFL with of his running ability. That seems to be not anywhere close what it was, or I can't imagine he would have lost his job. But you get accuracy. You have a great defense. For as far as his fantasy value
He's 26
in Houston,
years old.
yeah, you got to take the chance. The guy was a second overall pick. Washington paid out the nose to move up 4 spots to get him, or how many spots it was. But I don't think that he would have any long-term value. Could be a great streamer here and there in the right matchup, but he's not going to be a guy that I wait and I go, oh, got Robert Griffin. I did it again. I stole him from the draft. He's not in that list.
Right. And I agree with you. And we need to move on now. We need to talk tight ends before the end of this show. So let's do it right now.
Okay.
Okay. What do you got? You got some hot tight
I'm not
end
excited
takes?
about any of these guys.
Yeah.
There's nothing fantasy-wise to get excited about.
Well,
Jared Cook.
Antonio Gates has been a fantasy legend, Andy.
Okay.
How dare you.
Jared Cook has come and gone on the hype train over the years. Somehow Jermaine Gresham is not 38.
yeah,
He's only 27, but
played a little
his
game
time has come and gone.
of how old is Jermaine Gresham, and it's about 5 years younger than you think.
Ben Watson found the perfect situation for the perfect year. I don't think it happens again.
I think Ben Watson's more important is he
If
going
he
to
was
stay there,
retained,
or is he going
yeah.
to be replaced by
one of these other guys.
by a young buck with athletic
You
ability?
have Kobe Fleener and Dwayne Allen. One of those guys will probably go back to Indianapolis. The other guy will be a free agent.
Give me Kobe Fleener, who we know going into last year, I think he's a talented football player, a very good receiving tight end. Give me him replacing Ben Watson with Drew Brees in that system that has produced, and then I will actually be excited about a free agent tight end signing.
You
Totally fine
won't
with
be
that.
excited if Kobe goes back to the Colts without Dwayne Allen?
I think that would be a targetable fantasy option at the back end of the draft that would be able to produce for you, sure.
So what about if Antonio Gates is gone,
And they bring back
the Darrius Green
yes. If that happens, Ladarius Green is
moves
probably
up the
Finally.
sleeper list?
The Ladarius Green truthers can come out of the bushes.
It's the final year you get to be excited about him.
wow. I mean, I would probably have him on a lot of my teams because I think I would risk and draft higher than where he would go average draft position to get him if that was the case.
Anybody else that is relevant? What teams are looking for tight ends right now, Mike?
Oof. The Colts and the Chargers are going to be the top ones off my head because they're both of their guys are free agents, and if they lose them, then they have to quickly replace them.
Here's
You
two
didn't see-
teams that have no tight end whatsoever. The New York Jets really need a pass-catching tight end, and the Houston Texans. Those two teams, to me, you could also throw
Pittsburgh,
yeah, with Heath Miller leaving into that mix of teams that really need that tight end, especially pass catchers.
Yeah, it would not shock me at all if Pittsburgh pays one of these guys. Heath Miller's gone. They got the new outlaw, Jesse James, in town. I don't know if Pittsburgh's willing to go into the season with an unproven guy. Most teams want at least a veteran there to help out. So a guy like Dwayne Allen or even Ladarius Green ending up in Pittsburgh would not be surprising at all. And let's say a guy like Green does go to Pittsburgh. I think that could be interesting. Heath Miller has had had his times where he became a fantasy relevant guy, and Pittsburgh puts up a ton of points. I don't think it's out of the question for you to
That's
to
about
take
the
a chance.
only team that I would be really excited for, because most of the teams that need that tight end, they don't have a great quarterback. But if he goes and plays with Roethlisberger, or he would be another guy if he goes to the Saints and they brought him in to really be the replacement of Jimmy Graham, he has the ability, I believe, to do that.
All right, before we close the show, I do want to remind everybody about jointhefoot.com. Come join us on jointhefoot.com, our fantasy community. We actually put up an extra show every week just for listeners or supporters on jointhefoot.com. Become a Foot Clan member. Send us your question, and we answer that on the mailbag show every week for those listeners. Final prediction, where does Doug Martin go, guys?
Oakland.
I've got my prediction. You've got Oakland?
I've got Oakland.
I'm gonna throw Washington out there. They like to spend money.
That's fair.
I'm going to say Houston.
Okay. All right. You heard it here. Well, one of us will sound like a genius, or we'll all sound like idiots. Check out the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, and submit your questions. Click the Submit a Question button. We'll answer some mailbag questions on Thursday's show. Be sure to stay tuned and subscribe on YouTube for the show after the show. Any parting words, gentlemen?
Yeah, I would say, no joke, if you are a fantasy fan or a fan of anybody, go to pristineauction.com. It is a blast. I never thought I was a memorabilia person. I love looking at that stuff.
Definitely check it out. All right, see you guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.